While I was out of town, my kids sold my dog. We needed fast cash, they said. I came home calm and asked, who bought him? The very next morning, the doorbell rang, and the new owner stood there with a surprise that made them panic. My hands trembled as I stared at the message. Perfect. Your mountain cabin is just sitting there. We are making it our summer home. It wasn't a question, it was a declaration from my cousin, Savannah, in our family group chat. My sanctuary, the one place I'd poured my heart and savings into, was being claimed, and I knew, with a sickening lurch, that this was just the beginning of a conflict I couldn't avoid. The air in my Austin apartment felt suddenly thick, the quiet hum of my laptop a stark contrast to the frantic beat of my heart. This wasn't just about a vacation spot, it was about Arthur, my grandfather, and everything he meant to me. 3 years ago, when Grandpa Arthur passed, it felt like the world had tilted. He wasn't just a grandfather, he was my mentor, my confidant, the only one in my family who truly understood me. While my parents chased careers and social events, Grandpa Arthur taught me self-reliance, creative problem-solving, and the quiet joy of solitude. I remember the lawyer's office, the lingering scent of funeral flowers, and the shock when he told me Arthur had left me his mountain cabin. Not to my parents, not to his other kids, but to me. The cabin sat on 3 acres in the Rocky Mountains, about 3 hours from Austin. He was very specific, the lawyer said. He wanted you to have the cabin because, and I quote, Clara is the only one who will appreciate it for what it is, not what it could be worth. Those words hit me deep. As a freelance graphic designer, I had the flexibility to use it, but more than that, I understood. This cabin was freedom, creativity, peace, not a real estate opportunity. Growing up, it had been my safe haven. When family tensions flared, or my parents' expectations became too much, Grandpa Arthur would whisk me away for weekends. We'd hike, fish, and watch fireflies from the porch while he spun tales. Within those pine walls, I was simply me. But when I inherited it, reality struck hard. The place was a wreck. Leaky roof, unreliable plumbing, decades of mountain winters had taken their toll. Grandpa had kept it up well into his 70s, but his health had declined, and so had the cabin. It's a money pit, my mother warned. You don't have the skills or resources, my father added. Savannah even suggested I sell it to her husband's real estate company. But selling it was unthinkable. This was Arthur's legacy. So I started the long, grueling process of restoration. My savings went into major repairs, I hired professionals for electrical and structural work, but for everything else, I taught myself. I devoured tutorials, badgered hardware store employees, and befriended local contractors. Every single weekend for a year, I drove those 3 hours. It wasn't just fixing, it was making the cabin mine, honoring Grandpa. I kept his hand-carved bookshelf, but refreshed it. Preserved the Riverstone fireplace, but added efficient inserts. Modernized the kitchen, but kept the rustic wooden countertops he'd built. My family's interest was fickle. Initially, it was all wasting time and money. Then, as I posted progress photos online, offers to help appeared, always conveniently tied to them using the cabin. I politely declined. This was my project, my sanctuary. My family dynamic had always been complicated. My parents, corporate attorneys, instilled the mantra family comes first, which often meant my boundaries came last. My cousins had a track record of borrowing clothes that vanished, money that was never repaid, and expecting me to always adjust my plans. Growing up, if I dared set a boundary, I was the selfish one. Over time, I'd learned to create distance, maintaining contact only through holiday gatherings, occasional birthdays, and the dreaded family group chat. I'd found that too much information about my life just invited interference. Last month, after hearing about some local vandalism, I invested in a comprehensive security system, motion cameras, smart locks, floodlights, even a two-way communication system. I could monitor and control everything from my phone. The peace of mind was worth every penny. With the cabin finally restored, finally secured, I felt an accomplishment unlike any other. This was the first place that truly felt like mine, a physical manifestation of my independence and growth. I had no idea my family had other plans. It was a Tuesday afternoon, headphones on, deep in a branding design. My phone kept buzzing, but I ignored it, focused on finishing. 2 hours later, I picked it up to find 63 new messages in the family chat. 63. Usually, it was quiet. This volume meant something big. I scrolled to the beginning, and my stomach dropped. Savannah's message, bold and entitled, "Perfect. Your mountain cabin is just sitting there. We're making it our summer home." Then the excited replies, "Aunt Bethany, wonderful idea. The kids would love it. Uncle David, count us in for 4th of July. Cousin Ethan, can we bring the boat? My mother, Clara, hardly uses it anyway. It will be good to see the place full of family again." The messages continued, detailed plans for different weeks, meal schedules, supply lists. Photos popped up, Savannah's kids with packed suitcases, mountain summer, here we come. Phrases like, "Can't believe we didn't think of this sooner," and "Mom still has the old key from when Grandpa was alive, right?" My heart hammered. My hands trembled. I scrolled frantically, looking for any mention of them asking me. Nothing. They were just planning to occupy my private property like a communal timeshare. Childhood memories flooded back, my diary read, my art supplies broken, my college acceptance letter opened. This feeling was familiar, a violation disguised as family closeness. Taking a deep, shaky breath, I typed, trying to sound reasonable, "Hi everyone, I noticed a lot of plans are being made for my cabin. I actually have work scheduled there all summer as it's my primary workspace when I'm not in Austin. Also, I'd appreciate some advance notice for visits. This is all confusing since no one asked me about availability." The replies were instant and dismissive. Savannah, "Oh, come on, Clara. You can work anywhere with your laptop. The kids are so excited." My mother, "Honey, don't be difficult. Family should be welcome anytime. Aunt Eleanor, we won't disturb your things. Promise. We just want the mountain air. Uncle Michael, it's not like you're there all the time. We saw your Instagram. You were in Austin last week." Each message felt like a boot stomping on my boundaries. I tried again, "I understand everyone is excited, but this is my home. I've put thousands of dollars and countless hours into renovating it. I have client deadlines. I need to know when people are planning to be there. And honestly, I'd prefer to be present when others are using the cabin." Their tone hardened. "My father, you're overreacting. It's just family. Savannah, don't be so selfish. Think of the kids. Aunt Bethany, Arthur would want the whole family to enjoy the cabin, not just one person." The mention of Grandpa Arthur, weaponized against me, made my chest tighten. They were twisting his memory to serve their own convenience. As I struggled to form a response that wasn't pure outrage, Savannah's final message appeared, "We're leaving first thing tomorrow morning, 8-hour drive." So excited. Kids are already packed. Ethan and Brittany are meeting us there. 6 adults, 7 kids for the first week. Mom and Dad might drive up this weekend, too. 8-hour drive? That didn't make sense. The cabin was 3 hours from Austin. Then it clicked. Savannah had moved to Denver last year. She was driving 8 hours to my cabin, without my permission. This wasn't just poor boundaries, it was a full-blown, planned invasion. My hands shaking, I called my mother. If anyone could talk sense into Savannah, it was her sister. But I needed my mother's support first. "Mom," I said, my voice tight. "This cabin situation is out of control. Savannah is literally packing her car to drive to my property without my permission." A pause, then a sigh. "Clara, it's just for the summer. Why are you making such a fuss?" Making a fuss? It's my property. Grandpa left it to me, not the whole family. Well, that was his choice. But family shares, Clara. You've always been so territorial. My heart sank. My mother wasn't supporting me. She went on, besides, it's not like you live there full-time. It's a vacation home, and family should be welcome. It's not a vacation home. I insisted. It's my second residence, my workplace. I've invested everything in restoring it. And it looks lovely from the photos. Everyone's excited. The conversation went nowhere. After 10 minutes of circular arguments, I hung up and immediately called Savannah. She answered, her voice falsely bright. Clara. I was just about to text you our arrival time tomorrow. We should get there around 4 if traffic cooperates. Savannah, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. You cannot stay at my cabin tomorrow, or any day, without my explicit permission. I have not given that permission. In fact, I'm telling you directly, the cabin is not available. Oh, come on. She laughed, as if I were joking. It's family. We're not strangers breaking in. That's exactly what you'll be doing, I insisted. I have not given you permission to enter my property. Her tone shifted, the false brightness replaced by something hard. Look, everyone's taken time off. The kids are packed. We've been planning this for weeks. Weeks? And in all those weeks, it never occurred to you to ask me first? I mentioned it to your mom, she said dismissively. She thought it was a great idea. My mother doesn't speak for me, and she doesn't own my cabin. God, you're being so dramatic. My kids are 8, 10, and 12. They've been talking about nothing else. Are you really going to disappoint children? The manipulation was so transparent it was almost laughable if the situation wasn't so infuriating. I'm not disappointing anyone. You set your children up for disappointment by promising them something that wasn't yours to give. We're coming, Clara, she said, her voice now cold. You can either be reasonable or not, but we're coming. The whole family agrees this is a perfect solution. Before I could respond, she hung up. Minutes later, my phone exploded. The coordinated pressure campaign had begun. Aunt Eleanor, your cousin tells me you're being difficult. Remember how generous Arthur was? He'd be so disappointed. Uncle David, don't understand the problem. We just want to enjoy the mountains. Cousin Ethan, my kids are talking about fishing all week. Don't be the bad guy. Uncle Michael, if it's about money, we can chip in. Family property should be for family. Each message twisted the knife deeper. I was selfish, unreasonable, betraying Grandpa Arthur's memory. Around 8 p.m., Aunt Susan called, typically the family mediator. Clara, dear, she began, I think there's been a misunderstanding. There's no misunderstanding, Aunt Susan. My family is attempting to use my private property without permission. That's trespassing. She laughed softly. Goodness, such harsh language for family. No one is trespassing. We're just looking to spend some quality time in the mountains, at my home without my invitation or consent, I added. Well, perhaps there should have been more communication, she conceded slightly. But plans are in motion. Savannah's family is driving up tomorrow. Surely you can be flexible? I have installed a security system, I informed her. No one will be able to enter without my authorization. A pause. A security system? Don't you think that's extreme for a family cabin? Arthur never locked his doors. Things change. There's been vandalism. Well, she said, her voice cooling, I think you're overreacting. No one will damage your precious cabin. It's family for goodness sake. After more fruitless back and forth, I ended the call. Scrolling through messages, I noticed something disturbing. Several family members referenced specific cabin features they couldn't have known about unless someone shared details. With growing horror, I realized they had passed around my address and private information. I sent a final message to the group. I want to be absolutely clear. The cabin is not available for family use this summer. I have not and will not give permission for anyone to enter the property. Please respect my boundaries and my property rights. The responses were immediate and hostile. Savannah, too late. We're already packed. If you're so concerned, drive up and join us. Otherwise, stop being dramatic. My mother, Clara, enough. This isn't like you. Why are you being so selfish? My father, your behavior is embarrassing. This isn't how we raised you. By midnight, stress had me physically ill. Trembling hands, a knotted stomach, a pounding headache. I tried to sleep, but spent hours staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. The last message I saw was from Savannah, "We're all adults here. We'll take good care. See you tomorrow, maybe." As I finally drifted into uneasy sleep around 4 a.m., one thing was clear: reasoning with them wouldn't work. They had no intention of respecting my boundaries. Tomorrow would demand a different approach. The shrill notification from my phone jolted me awake at 9:30 a.m. Motion detected on the front path. My heart pounded. I opened the app, expecting a deer. Instead, an unfamiliar car pulled into my driveway. Before I could process it, my phone buzzed again, a text from Ben, my neighbor. "Your family arriving with loads of luggage. Quite a crowd. Didn't know you were expecting company. Want me to help them get settled?" I texted back quickly, "Not expected. Not invited. Do not help them get in. Call me." My phone rang seconds later. "Clara, what's going on?" Ben's voice was concerned. "My family decided to use my cabin for the summer." Without asking, I explained, my voice tight. They ignored my objections. "Well, they can't get in without a key, right?" Ben asked. "That's what I'm about to find out," I replied, switching back to the security app. What I saw sent panic through me. 3 cars in my driveway. A dozen people, children included, running around. Savannah, like a cruise director, pointed directions. Her husband, Tyler, tried the front door, then checked under rocks near the porch, clearly looking for a hidden key. Ethan and Brittany unloaded coolers. Their kids chased Savannah's kids, already trampling the native plant garden I'd carefully cultivated. "Oh my God," I whispered, watching the invasion unfold. "Clara, you still there?" Ben's voice sounded distant. "They're trying to break in," I said, hollow. "Looking for keys, checking windows. Want me to call the sheriff?" Ben offered. "Not yet," I replied. "Let me try something first." I watched, horrified, as Tyler moved around, trying every window. He seemed determined. The children were now on the back deck, their voices faintly audible through the security mics as they peered into my living room. Savannah was on her phone, gesturing animatedly. She wasn't calling me. She was probably calling my mother or Aunt Susan for information on how to access the cabin. The sense of violation was overwhelming. My private space, my sanctuary, where I'd poured my heart and savings, was being treated like public property. My hands shook so badly I had to put the phone down. Memories flooded back, Savannah returning my new sweater with a cigarette burn, Ethan deleting my college essay off my laptop, countless belongings taken, borrowed, used without consent, all because family shares. My body vibrated with rage and helplessness. Tears streamed down my face. Picking up the phone, I saw Tyler examining a side window, testing it. Then he pulled out a small tool. "He's trying to force a window," I told Ben, still on the line. That's breaking and entering, Ben said firmly. I'm calling the sheriff. Wait, I said, clarity suddenly cutting through my emotional turmoil. I have another idea. In that moment, I remembered Grandpa Arthur's words when I'd complain about family taking my things. Clara, he'd say gently but firmly, you teach people how to treat you by what you allow. Don't get mad. Get clear. Set your boundaries and hold them, even when it's difficult. Especially when it's difficult. He wouldn't want his cabin to be a battleground, but he also wouldn't want me to let my boundaries be trampled. He left it to me because he trusted my judgment. It was time to honor that trust. With newfound resolve, I wiped my tears and focused on my phone's security panel. That expensive system, installed just last month, was about to prove its worth. With steady hands, I navigated to the master control. Motion cameras, floodlights, smart locks, outdoor speakers, even two-way communication. I never imagined using it against my own family, but their actions had forced my hand. I watched Tyler at the window, the kids running wild, Savannah directing everything like she owned the place. Taking a deep breath, I activated the system's emergency protocol. Immediately, powerful floodlights blazed to life. An ear-piercing alarm blared from multiple speakers. The automated message boomed, "This is a security alert. Unauthorized presence detected on private property. Local security service has been notified. Please vacate the premises immediately." Through the cameras, I watched the chaos. The children froze, then several began crying, covering their ears. The adults spun around, searching for the source. Tyler jumped back from the window he'd been trying to force, almost falling. Savannah stood in the driveway, mouth agape, staring up at the nearest speaker. Ethan grabbed his youngest, scanning the property. Brittany and the others herded children toward the cars. Neighbors, including Ben, emerged from their cabins. It was time to make my presence known. I pressed the two-way communication button and spoke, clearly, "Attention, this is Clara Hayes, the legal owner of this property. You are currently trespassing on private property. I have not given permission for anyone to enter or use this cabin. You need to leave immediately." The effect was immediate. Everyone froze, looking up in disbelief. Savannah recovered first, her face contorting with anger as she scanned for cameras. "Clara, turn this off right now," she screamed. "You're scaring the children." I continued through the speaker, my voice calm but firm. "A security service has been dispatched and will arrive shortly. I have video evidence of attempted forced entry, which is a criminal offense. Please return to your vehicles and leave the property immediately." Tyler approached a camera, his face inches from the lens. "This is ridiculous. We're family, not criminals. Turn this system off." "Please step away from the security equipment," I responded. Tampering with security systems is also an offense. You have 5 minutes to vacate the property before the security service arrives. It wasn't entirely true. I hadn't called them yet, but they were a button press away. I wanted them to leave voluntarily. The children were all crying now. Some adults started moving toward the cars, clearly rethinking the situation. But Savannah stood her ground, furiously typing on her phone. My own phone rang. It was Savannah. I switched off the speaker to answer. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" she demanded, shrill with indignation. "Protecting my property from trespassers," I replied calmly. "We are not trespassers. We are your family. Turn off these alarms. You're terrifying the children." "The children wouldn't be terrified if you hadn't brought them to a property you had no permission to enter," I pointed out. "The alarms will stop when you leave. You've completely overreacted." Savannah spat. "We were just trying to have a nice family summer. Now you've embarrassed all of us in front of the neighbors and traumatized the kids. I made it clear yesterday that my cabin was not available. You chose to ignore me and come anyway. These are the consequences of your actions, not mine. I'm going to call Mom, she threatened. Everyone in the family is going to hear about this. Feel free to tell them how you attempted to occupy my home without permission and got caught, I replied. Now, please leave before I need to call local law enforcement in addition to the security service. Through the cameras, I saw most adults moving luggage back into cars. Children were loaded, some still crying. Only Savannah and Tyler remained defiant. This isn't over, Savannah warned before hanging up. True to my word, 2 minutes later, a car with the local security company's logo pulled up. I quickly connected through the app, explaining the situation. Miss Hayes, we received an alert about possible trespassers, the officer said. Yes, some people showed up uninvited and attempted to enter. They're being resistant. We'll handle it, he assured me. Would you like us to contact local law enforcement? Not at this time, I decided. Let's see if they'll leave peacefully first. I watched as the officer approached Savannah and Tyler, who immediately started talking over each other, gesturing wildly. The officer remained calm, checking ID, speaking into his radio. After a tense conversation, Savannah and Tyler finally moved toward their car, faces flushed with anger. Within 15 minutes of the alarm sounding, all 3 cars were packed. The officer stayed at the edge of the property, ensuring everyone left. As the cars pulled away, my phone exploded with calls and messages. I ignored them all. The immediate crisis was handled, but I knew this wasn't over. After a brief chat with the security service, I decided to drive to the cabin myself. 3 hours from Austin, but I needed to see it, ensure no damage. More importantly, I needed to face this head-on. Running away wasn't Arthur's style, and it wouldn't be mine. As I packed, I felt a complex mix of emotions. The adrenaline faded, leaving me shaky and exhausted. Anxiety about further confrontation coiled in my gut. But underneath it all was a fierce determination. For perhaps the first time, I had truly stood up to my family's boundary violations in a way that couldn't be ignored. The drive gave me time to process. My phone buzzed with calls, but I focused on the road. Whatever storm awaited, I'd face it on my terms. I arrived just after 1 p.m. The security officer was still there, having stayed to ensure they didn't return. To my dismay, all 3 cars were parked about 100 yards down the road. They refused to leave the area, the officer explained. They're insisting on speaking with you. I can call for police backup. I took a deep breath. No, it's all right. I'll talk to them. Thank you for staying. As I pulled into my driveway, doors opened. Savannah, Tyler, Ethan, and Brittany approached the edge of my property, stopping at my rustic split-rail fence. Their expressions ranged from angry to uncomfortable to outright hostile. The security officer stood nearby as I got out and walked toward them. The tension was palpable. Clara! Savannah began immediately, her voice tight with fury. I can't believe you'd embarrass us like this. Calling security on your own family. What is wrong with you? I looked at her calmly. I told you clearly you didn't have permission. You chose to ignore me and come anyway. It's a family cabin, she insisted. No, it's my cabin, I corrected. Grandpa left it to me, not to the family collectively. Ethan stepped forward. Come on, Clara. We just wanted to give the kids a nice summer. Was it really so terrible that you needed to traumatize them with alarms? I'm sorry the children were frightened, I said sincerely. But they wouldn't have been in that situation if you had respected my clear communication yesterday. You've always been selfish, Brittany said, speaking for the first time. Even as a kid, you never wanted to share. This isn't about sharing, I replied. This is about basic respect for boundaries and property rights. You wouldn't walk into a stranger's house uninvited. Being related doesn't change that principle. Tyler, who'd been seething, burst out, "Do you know how much time we took off work? How much planning went into this trip? The kids have been looking forward to this for weeks." Planning that happened entirely without consulting me, the owner of the property, I pointed out. That's the fundamental problem. You made plans involving my home without my knowledge or consent. Arthur would be ashamed, Savannah said, her voice low and cutting. He always welcomed family at the cabin. Always. That stung, but I held my ground. Grandpa welcomed invited guests. He didn't appreciate boundary violations, and he left the cabin to me because he trusted my judgment. Ben chose that moment to approach, coffee in hand. "Everything okay, Clara?" "Just a family disagreement," I explained. "More than a disagreement," Ben said, turning to my relatives. "I saw your husband trying to force that side window open," he said, nodding at Tyler. "Where I come from, that's breaking and entering." Tyler's face reddened. "I was just checking if it was locked." "We were locked out," Savannah interjected. "You were never locked out," I corrected. "You were never invited in. There's a difference." "This is ridiculous," Savannah fumed. "We're going to speak to a lawyer. You can't just inherit family property and keep it all to yourself." "Actually, she can," the security officer interjected. "The deed is in Miss Hayes's name alone. Legally, this is her private property, and you have no right to access it without her permission." "We'll see about that," Tyler muttered. I looked at my family, truly looked at them, and felt a strange clarity. Their anger wasn't about the cabin. It was about the disruption to the family dynamic. For years, I had been the one who gave in, who accommodated, who adjusted my boundaries to keep the peace. By standing firm now, I had upset their established order. "I think it's time for you all to leave," I said firmly. "I've made my position clear. The cabin is not available for family use without my explicit invitation." "And what are we supposed to do now?" Ethan demanded. "We've taken time off work. The kids are expecting a vacation." "That's not my responsibility," I replied. "You created this situation. There are plenty of rental cabins in the area. At peak season prices?" "That's just great," Brittany said sarcastically. "I'm sorry your lack of planning created difficulties for you," I said. "But I'm not changing my position." Savannah's face hardened. "You'll regret this, Clara. When you need family support, don't come running to us." The threat hung heavy. Part of me wanted to say that family support shouldn't be conditional on boundary violations, but further discussion was pointless. "I think we're done here," I said instead. "Please leave." For a moment, Savannah looked ready to explode, but Tyler put a hand on her arm. "Let's go. This isn't worth it." The adults turned and walked back to their cars. Through the windows, I saw the disappointed faces of the children. That was the hardest part, knowing they were caught in the middle. But I knew allowing my boundaries to be violated wasn't the solution. The drive back to Denver would be long and tense for them. Part of me felt guilty for the kids' disappointment, but a stronger part recognized their parents created this. As the cars finally pulled away, the security officer approached. "Would you like me to stay longer, Miss Hayes? We can arrange extended monitoring." "No, that won't be necessary," I said, utterly exhausted. "I think they've gotten the message." After thanking the officer and saying goodbye to Ben, I finally entered my cabin. Everything was as I had left it, untouched by the invasion attempt. The familiar scent of pine and the quiet creaking of wood welcomed me home. I sank into Grandpa Arthur's old armchair, the one piece I'd kept exactly as it was, and felt the emotional weight of the day crash over me. Relief that my sanctuary remained intact. Pride in standing my ground. Sadness that it had come to this. Anxiety about the inevitable fallout. My phone showed 23 missed calls and over 50 unread messages, ranging from confused to hostile. My mother had called 7 times. I put the phone down. Those conversations could wait. I needed to process, to find my center again. As evening fell, I sat on the porch with a cup of tea, watching fireflies emerge, just like with Grandpa. The mountains were purple, the air cool and magical. "You did good, kiddo," I could almost hear him say. Standing up for yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary. In the quiet of the mountain evening, surrounded by the sanctuary I had created, I began to find peace. The cabin was still mine. My boundaries held, even if it cost some family goodwill. Some prices were worth paying. The weeks following what I now called the invasion were challenging. The family chat went silent after an initial explosion of accusations. My mother left tearful voicemails. My father sent a terse email about my selfish, immature behavior. I responded to none of it. Instead, I stayed at the cabin for 2 weeks, working remotely, giving myself space. The silence was healing, each day free from family drama felt like a weight lifting. Gradually, individual messages trickled in. My younger sister, Olivia, notably absent from the cabin scheme, reached out first. That sounds intense. For what it's worth, I think they were totally out of line. Grandpa left you the cabin for a reason. Love you. Her simple support meant everything. My cousin Noah, another outlier, messaged, heard about the cabin situation. Respect for standing your ground. They'll get over it. Even my Uncle Samuel, my father's quiet brother, sent a thoughtful email. Clara, while I don't approve of how things escalated, I understand why you felt backed into a corner. The cabin is legally yours. Give everyone time. These small gestures helped, but couldn't erase years of boundary violations. Back in Austin, I started therapy with Dr. Miller, who specialized in family dynamics. What you're describing, she explained, is a family system that doesn't respect individual boundaries. Your grandfather seems to have recognized this. Everyone keeps saying I'm selfish for not sharing, I told her. There's a difference between generosity and allowing yourself to be taken advantage of, she replied. Healthy relationships require mutual respect. Your family expects you to accommodate without extending the same consideration. Over months, Dr. Miller helped me develop strategies for maintaining boundaries, working through my guilt. I also found an online community of people with similar experiences. Sharing my story anonymously brought an outpouring of validation. My siblings tried to claim our father's house after he left it to me, one user wrote. Standing firm was the hardest thing I've ever done, but it was the right decision. Another, family entitlement is real. You're not crazy for wanting control over your own property. I wasn't alone. I wasn't wrong. As summer turned to fall, I reclaimed my relationship with the cabin. I painted the kitchen cabinets a cheerful blue, replaced old deck furniture with pieces reflecting my taste. Each change, no matter how small, was a declaration: this is mine. Mine to change, mine to preserve, mine to share only when and with whom I choose. The isolation I feared never materialized. Instead, I developed genuine friendships with my cabin neighbors. Ben and his wife Diane invited me to dinner, introducing me to others. We've all had family members who think our vacation homes are their vacation homes, laughed Sarah, who owned a cabin nearby. That's why most of us don't share our door codes anymore. These connections were refreshing, built on mutual respect, not obligation. Hosting a cookout on my new deck was revelatory. These people were there because I invited them, and they wanted to come. No manipulation, no guilt, no expectations. The contrast with my family was stark. By Thanksgiving, tensions had cooled. My mother called to discuss holiday plans, avoiding the cabin incident. I kept the conversation pleasant but non-committal, using techniques Dr. Miller taught me. I agreed to attend the family dinner but made it clear I'd stay at a hotel, not their house. That seems unnecessary, Mom commented. We have plenty of room. I prefer having my own space, I replied simply, no explanation or apology. The slight pause before she accepted felt like progress. The holiday was awkward but manageable. Savannah's family spent Thanksgiving with her husband's relatives. There were pointed looks, but no direct confrontation. I left early, returning to my hotel with a sense of accomplishment, not the usual emotional exhaustion. As winter settled, I spent Christmas at the cabin, inviting only Olivia and her boyfriend. It was the most peaceful holiday I could remember. We hiked in the snow, cooked elaborate meals, and talked openly about family patterns without pressure. You know, Olivia said by the fireplace, I used to think you overreacted, but seeing how much happier you are now, standing up for yourself, I get it. I'm kind of inspired. Her words meant everything. By spring, the cabin was fully my sanctuary again. The security system remained, not as a symbol of fear, but of my right to protect what was mine, to maintain healthy boundaries. Some family relationships had changed permanently. Savannah remained distant. My parents accepted my boundaries but clearly didn't understand them. Others, like Olivia and Uncle Samuel, grew closer through their support. I learned that healthy boundaries sometimes mean losing relationships built on unhealthy dynamics. That loss carried grief, but it made room for connections based on mutual respect and genuine caring. On a warm evening in early May, almost a year after the confrontation, I sat on Grandpa Arthur's porch, sipping tea from one of his old mugs. The mountains vibrant with spring, birds calling. I thought about how much had changed, not just the cabin, but me. Grandpa Arthur gave me more than property, he gave me the opportunity to learn my own worth, to stand firm, to create a life based on self-respect. The cabin was the catalyst, but the real transformation happened within me. Thank you, I whispered to the evening air, certain he understood. The peace I felt was hard-won but complete. I had protected what mattered, the physical space, yes, but also my right to set boundaries and have them respected. The relationships that remained were healthier. I was stronger. As night fell, I made a silent promise to myself, and to Grandpa Arthur's memory. I would continue to honor both the cabin and myself by maintaining those boundaries, not with anger, but with the quiet confidence of someone who knows her own worth. What would you have done in my situation?